In our previous lives, our folks split up. My little sister, Olivia, decided to stick with our dad, who ran the family business, while I went with our mom, who was always a full time homemaker. But after our dad remarried, Olivia got constantly mistreated by our stepmom and Ethan. Once she turned 18, they kicked her straight out of the house. As for me, I was raised with our mom's careful love. I bounced back big time in the college entrance exams, got into a top nutrition program, published a bunch of papers, and had a bright future ahead. My sister, feeling crushed, tried dragging me down with her. And when I woke up again, I was back on the day of that split. This time, Olivia nudged me toward our dad and then flipped to hug our mom. Sis, it's your turn to feel the pain I've gone through this time. But she didn't realize that someone capable like me could thrive anywhere. Even in tough times, I could still make my way. Olivia and I were both reborn on the day our parents divorced. On the living room couch, we sat together in the middle. On one side was our dad in a suit, and on the other was our mom, looking worn out, not great with her appearance, and wiping away her tears. Aside from crying and making a scene, she couldn't do much to keep our dad around. This time, after our mom shed tears, our dad calmly pulled out the divorce papers. Naturally, I didn't want to go with him. He was always working, and we barely saw him a few times a year. He was practically a stranger. Actually, the love between our parents had long faded, but our mom was still holding on. Sis, didn't you say you'd stay with Dad? Olivia wrapped her arms around our mom, looked up, and gave those big, innocent eyes. Mom, you raised me. I'll always be with you. Let Olivia go with Dad to live the good life. I'll stay and take care of you. Olivia's brave words left our mom a bit stunned. Earlier, when our mom had hesitantly asked, Olivia had confidently said she was born to be a rich girl and would definitely stay with Dad. But overnight, she changed her stance. Our mom thought her beloved daughter had a change of heart and was deeply moved, her eyes full of love and kindness. But when she looked at me, there was a hint of disappointment. Get out, you ungrateful brat. I raised you for nothing. I grabbed our dad's hand and left decisively. At the door, our mom watched from behind. All these years, her love wasn't wasted. Only you didn't abandon her. I smirked a little. Mom, you're so clueless. Olivia didn't choose you out of love. In our past lives, Olivia didn't hesitate to pick our dad, leaving our loving mom crying her heart out. She thought she'd live the life of a wealthy second-generation kid, enjoying ease and our dad's affection. After all, our dad only had her as his daughter. But 3 months later, our dad remarried, and our stepmom brought in a son the same age as Olivia, Ethan. Our stepmom was super picky with Olivia, nitpicking everything and even firing the nanny, making Olivia handle all the daily chores. From then on, Olivia lived like Cinderella. At school, Ethan would purposely get close to her in front of everyone, causing the girls who liked him to turn against Olivia one by one. She was left out and bullied, feeling like life was hell. Once our stepmom and dad found out, they despised her even more. Our stepmom accused her of flirting with her son. Our dad, feeling embarrassed, blamed Olivia for lacking self-respect. After high school, our stepmom kicked her out without a second thought. Our dad didn't say much. He was already really disappointed in her. Meanwhile, under our mom's care, I studied hard and worked diligently. I went from being the worst student to a top performer, got into a prestigious university, and eventually became a doctor of nutrition. I published numerous papers, started my own health consulting firm, and helped countless people overcome health issues and regain their confidence. Our dad even called me up to give talks at his health product company, which unexpectedly boosted his sales. While I was being interviewed on TV, my sister was struggling to find a job with her resume in hand. She was so envious that her eyes turned red. Eventually, Olivia, feeling miserable, missed our mom's warmth and returned home after a lot of hassle. But our mom grabbed her by the neck, seething with hatred. I treated you so well, but for money and luxury, you still chose your dad. Now you have the nerve to come back. I cooked you a meal and asked you to eat before leaving. But in that moment, without noticing, she secretly put poison in the meal. I saw her eyes turn red. She started foaming at the mouth and finally died with blood flowing from her 7 orifices. Then everything went black. When I woke up again, Olivia was clearly back on the day of the split and chose our mom, which was totally out of character. Only then did I realize we were both reborn. She smirked. Sis, this time it's my turn to get all mom's love. You were so awesome in the last life. Now it's your time to feel betrayed by everyone. Just as she expected, not long after our stepmom moved in, she started bossing me around. Especially when our dad wasn't home, she'd make me clean the whole house and have the nanny supervise me. The nanny, influenced by our stepmom, learned to boss me around. While I mopped the floor, Olivia was cracking melon seeds and dropping the shells everywhere. When I tried to put away the dishes, she was picky and made me wash them again. In the evenings, she'd throw her nanny's uniform at me and make me wash it too. All of this was pushed by our stepmom. After smoothly getting used to ordering me around, she fired the nanny and made me handle everything at home. It was whatever. I needed a quiet kitchen to focus on my diet research and cooking. Compared to my passion, a bit of hardship and tiredness didn't matter. Compared to our stepmom, her son Ethan was even more moody and unpredictable. At home, Ethan was like a ghost. Except for mealtimes, he was almost always in his room. When he did come out, he had a gloomy look and didn't even greet our dad. During car rides to school, Ethan stayed silent the whole way. But at school, he seemed like a different person. Around people, he'd clearly and purposely get close to me. During breaks, he'd give me affectionate looks and ruffle my hair. In gym class, he'd insist I buy him water. After school, in front of everyone, he'd put his arm around my shoulders. But once we were in the car, his expression went dark, keeping a clear distance from me. Many rich girls at school were head over heels for him. I often found stacks of love letters in his drawer, which he'd tear up and toss in the trash. When those girls saw my close relationship with Ethan, they clenched their fists, wishing they could tear me apart to vent their anger. Ethan's secret admirers spread rumors, calling me a bootlicker who wouldn't leave Ethan alone. Soon, just like my sister in the past life, I was targeted everywhere. After grabbing food in the cafeteria, someone would deliberately bump into my shoulder, causing me to spill food everywhere. On my stool, glue would be smeared for no reason. One day when I went to the bathroom, someone dumped a basin of cold water on my head. Coming out drenched, I saw Olivia and a group of girls laughing maliciously. Now, Olivia was hanging out with the rich girls who had bullied her in the past life. In this elite high school, she looked exactly like a rich girl and was super arrogant. I carried the dirty water bucket straight towards them and splashed the water all over their faces and clothes. Immediately, screams filled the bathroom, and they hurriedly fled. Gross! Ugh! Olivia, who had been smiling brightly just a moment ago, quickly ran to the door and wiped her face in a panic. Dragging my soaking clothes back to the classroom, I found a clean school uniform on my desk. My eyes scanned the only 5 girls in the room who were buried in their studies. Finally, a girl named Diana in the first row turned around and gave me a faint smile. I got it immediately, and memories from the past life rushed back. There were basically 2 groups in this elite school. Most students were either rich or from noble families, getting in through wealth or connections. A small number like Diana got in with outstanding scores. Their backgrounds were ordinary, and they didn't fit in at all. In my past life, neither my grades nor my background were anything to brag about, and I couldn't find my place in this school. Diana had pulled me into a study group of 5, and that's how I went from being the worst to a top student. In fact, Diana had offered her school uniform to Olivia, who was being bullied before. But Olivia was too caught up in her rich girl fantasy and didn't want anything to do with them. Who cares about your uniform? Are you even worthy of being my friend? Olivia threw the uniform on the ground and stomped on it repeatedly. After that, Diana never offered to help her again. Now, Olivia kept her distance from Diana and the others and tried to get on the good side of the rich girls who had bullied her before. To fit in with them, Olivia gritted her teeth, bought designer bags, skipped classes to go clubbing, never did her homework, and handed in blank exam papers, thoroughly enjoying the rich girl life. After school, the huge villa was empty. Our dad, stepmom, and Ethan were out at a dinner party. After changing into silk pajamas, I headed to the kitchen, set up my phone, and made an anti-inflammatory and whitening drink by hand. Then I posted the process on my video account. I love cooking, but in my past life, my mom never let me in the kitchen, and I never got to handle quality ingredients. Now my dad deposited my allowance directly into my card every month, and I could report any ingredient cost to our stepmom. These were things I couldn't access before. With the nanny gone, I could fully show off my kitchen skills without any restrictions. I walked into the bathroom, enjoyed a bubble bath, and sipped my homemade health tea. In my past life, whenever my mom saw me in the kitchen, she'd freak out. Why aren't you reading books? What are you doing here? Do you want to be a cook forever? Can't you be more ambitious? Most of the time, I was locked in my room studying, and my mom kept watching me through the door crack nonstop. Originally, I could have gone to a regular high school, but my mom, out of spite, insisted I attend the same elite high school as Olivia. Because of this, most of the divorce money was spent on high tuition fees, and soon my mom and I were barely making ends meet. But Olivia didn't know any of this. She thought our mom and I lived a harmonious life, full of love and respect. In reality, it was mutual torture, really inhumane. No one knew our mom never got over the divorce. She became paranoid and crazy, trying to achieve fame and success through me to get back at our dad and Olivia. I was going nuts later, but with Diana's help, my grades improved, and I made a remarkable comeback to become a top student. But our mom didn't chill because of this. Instead, she went even further. After I got into university, she rented a place near the school to accompany me as a chaperone, watching me nonstop. She feared I'd be ordinary, and even more scared I'd achieve great success and abandon her like our dad did. This led to severe anxiety and depression. She often mistook me for Olivia and kicked and beat me like a madwoman. But I couldn't escape. After all, I was the only daughter left in her world. Even though I seemed to be thriving externally, inside I was a mess. My life was tightly controlled by my mom's suffocating love. Now, it was Olivia's turn to go through those days. The next day at school, I placed the homemade tea on Diana and the others' desks. They were just stunned for a second, then whispered, "Thanks," to me. At noon, they invited me to study together at the library. Seeing Diana's heavy dark circles and the other girls' constant pimples, I'd use my free time to promote the importance of a balanced diet and a healthy schedule. During breaks, I'd take them running and working out, instead of just being study machines, focused only on practice questions. They were all top students and didn't need much help with their studies. The only thing they lacked was inner confidence. Those rich girls were bold and carefree, while our study group of five was shy and always kept their heads down. In my past life, the study group of five all got into prestigious universities as they wished. However, after graduation and starting work, apart from being diligent and hardworking, they didn't dare aim for higher positions and status. Because of their backgrounds and life experiences, they had a deep sense of unworthiness. Later, some rushed into marriages, and others spent their lives stuck in office cubicles. Poverty wasn't the original sin. Everyone is born equal and has the right to pursue beauty and enjoy life. I ended this life not just to save myself, but also to help hardworking lives shine. At the same time, I had to deal with even more intense bullying. Someone carved the word bitch in big letters on my desk. I took out my school bag and when Ethan wasn't around, swapped desks with him. As for the creepy crawlers in my pencil box, the dead mice in my bag, and other weird stuff, I'd quietly put them into Ethan's bag. His aloof and cool persona quickly fell apart. For the first time, he shouted angrily in class, "Elizabeth, you're fucking crazy." Huh, weren't you thrilled when you bullied me? Why can't you handle it now? Since Olivia skipped classes with the rich girls daily, her grades naturally plummeted. At first, teachers patiently persuaded her to study hard, knowing her family background was ordinary. But those words sounded more like sarcasm to Olivia, so she ignored the advice and did whatever she wanted. Seeing how stubborn she was, teachers stopped bothering her. With Diana and the others' help, plus the solid study foundation I had from my past life, my grades shot up fast. The teacher especially praised me in class, and the five-member group happily applauded. Olivia, sitting at the back, almost ground her back teeth to bits. The following days went by smoothly. The only weird thing was that Olivia and Ethan started getting close. When the driver was taking us home, Ethan would stop the car halfway, and Olivia would wait at the intersection. They were enemies in the past life, but now it seemed they had buried the hatchet. I couldn't figure it out. However, when they didn't avoid me and gave me the same cold, malicious looks, I got it all at once. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. They were teaming up. On Monday's gym class, I walked into the equipment room. A few seconds later, I heard a loud door slam. Turning around, a thin figure stood at the door. Ethan had his hands in his pockets and stared at me arrogantly. I could feel something bad was about to go down. Whenever Ethan got close to me, trouble was brewing. "Excuse me?" But Ethan seemed not to hear and firmly blocked the door. I tried to get around him a few times, but he blocked me every time. "You're crazy. A good dog doesn't get in the way." Instead of getting mad, he smiled and said, "Just wait a bit longer." The time isn't here yet. Ethan glanced at his watch and continued, Elizabeth, you're doomed. I want to see how long you can stay so arrogant. Tell me, what do you think the teachers and classmates will say if a guy and a girl are caught alone in this equipment room? Hmm, if this gets to my mom and your dad, do you think you'll get away with it? So, I'm waiting for you here. In the past life, after the stepmom knew Olivia and Ethan had something going on, she tried everything to kick Olivia out of the Smith family. Because of this, our dad looked down on Olivia and had no more hopes for her, seeing her as a lost cause. Now they were trying the same old trick again. As long as it was proven that I was flirting with Ethan, getting expelled from school would be the least of my problems. In serious cases, I'd be kicked out of the house. I was really curious. Why do you have to target me? Is it because you're after my family's inheritance? Huh, how ridiculous. My dad runs multinational businesses abroad. Do you think I care about your family's little assets? Ethan looked at me, his eyes filling with anger. If it weren't for your dad's interference, my mom and dad wouldn't have split up. He's a homewrecker, and a homewrecker's daughter can't be good either. He gritted his teeth, each word dripping with hatred. It seemed he genuinely despised my dad and was blaming me. I casually replied, Oh, really? You're such a coward. You don't say a word in front of my dad, but act so high and mighty with me. If you're so capable, go and take it out on him. Ethan's face twisted with anger, his fists clenching and unclenching. I took a step back, knowing better than to stir trouble right then. After a while, I heard continuous footsteps outside the door, getting closer and closer. A few seconds later, Olivia's voice cut through the footsteps. Teacher, I just saw Elizabeth and Ethan enter the equipment room together. Are they really into each other? It's so dark in there. What are they doing? Hearing the voices, Ethan kept pressing me hard. Soon I was cornered by him. He grabbed my shoulders tightly, an evil smile spreading across his handsome face. As I struggled, Ethan suddenly bent down over me. I kicked him hard in the groin. Ethan curled up in pain like a shrimp. I took advantage, kicked him down, then straddled him and punched his face relentlessly. Soon, Ethan's face was a mess of bruises and red marks, blood trickling from his nose all over the floor. While I was really into beating him, the equipment room door slowly opened. A beam of sunlight hit my back, like a spotlight on the lead actor. I was sitting there slumped with my back to the door, pointing my finger at Ethan lying on the ground. I had intentionally messed up my hair a few times, making it all tousled. There was a sense of grievance and a tearful tone in my voice. How could you do this to me? I told you long ago that we're not compatible and that I don't like you at all, but you just wouldn't quit. I never expected you'd be such a beast in human clothing. When you saw me enter the equipment room, you followed and even tried to molest me. If I hadn't fought back, you'd have succeeded. Ethan was stunned, but with his mouth full of blood and his speech slurred. He couldn't defend himself. His arm stretched forward like he was asking for help. As sunlight filled the room, I heard bursts of exclamations behind me. I turned my head just in time to see Olivia, the head teacher, and a group of classmates standing at the door. They were all speechless, mouths open, staring in disbelief. Even Olivia couldn't help but cover her mouth. This was way too much information. Before they could react, I staggered to my feet, wiped my tears, pushed through the crowd like I was super ashamed, and ran away. Those people were stunned again, watching my disappearing figure outside and seeing the beaten Ethan inside. Their not-so-bright little minds were probably about to explode. Olivia was the first to react, helping the injured Ethan up. Since Ethan wanted to manipulate public opinion to frame me, I made him face the real power of public opinion. After Ethan returned from the infirmary, the teacher asked me to go to the office. The scene there was even more grand than I expected. The head teacher, the dean of teaching, and the principal were all present. Our stepmom, hearing that Ethan was hurt, rushed over immediately. At that moment, she was sitting on the sofa with the weak Ethan in her arms, looking at me with pure venom in her eyes. Our dad, hearing Ethan was injured, didn't want to come at first. After learning it was me who had beaten him, he didn't make a big deal either. But he couldn't resist our stepmom's crying and begging him to teach this vicious daughter a lesson. Only then did he put aside his work and show up late. He put his arm around our stepmom's shoulder to comfort her, looking unusually calm. It was during the break, with heads poking out from the door and windows. The classmates all wanted to see how this drama would end and if their male idol would fall from grace. Tell us, what exactly happened? The dean of teaching spoke first. I looked around and lowered my head. I really didn't want to remember it. This incident had hit me too hard. I never expected Ethan to be like this. He kept showing affection for me, causing me so much trouble, both at home and school. In gym class, teacher Julian told us to get the equipment. When I was about to leave, Ethan blocked me. He forced me into a corner, and I started crying. Then he put his arm around my shoulders and tried to kiss me. I had no choice but to fight back. You're lying. Ethan was so angry he stomped his feet. Then tell us, why were you two in the equipment room together? The dean of teaching noticed something suspicious and asked, We went to the equipment room together. Ethan rolled his eyes. We've been together a long time, so yeah, we went there on a date. Then how did you end up getting beaten like this? The head teacher found the inconsistency and questioned further. We had a bit of an argument and she just hit me too hard. I already said I don't like you. Which couple hits so hard when they argue? If you keep pestering me, I won't be with you either. As soon as I said this, a heated discussion erupted outside the door. So it turns out Ethan was the one chasing after me like a bootlicker. He got beaten up like this, yet he was still defending her. My male idol turned out to be such a shameless bootlicker. I can't accept this. As for the truth, there's still no conclusion. For now, there are two possibilities. One is that Ethan and Olivia are in a romantic relationship and we've been fooled. The other is that Ethan couldn't get the girl he loves and forced Olivia into the equipment room. Oh my God, I'm so shocked. Our stepmom couldn't stay still seeing her son at a disadvantage. Whatever the reason, you shouldn't have beaten my son like this. You're so vicious and hit so hard. Auntie, I was just defending myself. I heard you're trying to ruin my son's reputation. What do you want? I replied with grievance. I know my son. He couldn't have done such a thing. His character at school is obvious to everyone. With your baseless accusations, you've smeared my son's reputation. I think you're the one who seduced him and now distorting the truth. The older you are, the wiser you are. I had no evidence to prove that Ethan had molested me, and Ethan had no proof that we were in love. The situation was deadlocked. Both sides stuck to their own stories. I can prove what Ethan said is true. Olivia walked in from the crowd and stood gracefully. I saw with my own eyes that Elizabeth and Ethan entered the equipment room together, so I got suspicious and called the teacher. Well, it was indeed Olivia who told us that Ethan and Elizabeth were alone in the equipment room, and that's why we went there. The head teacher chimed in. Instantly, Ethan became arrogant again. We really went in together. I just didn't expect we'd fight over something trivial, and she even hit me. I was scared of hurting her, so I didn't fight back. Elizabeth, how could you talk nonsense and frame me? If you want to break up, that's fine. I really don't want to stay in the same school with you anymore. Finally, his true colors showed. Someone like her can't stay in the same school as my son. The dean of teaching and the principal exchanged glances. I realized that to end this drama quickly, they wouldn't mind sacrificing me. And my dad was absent-mindedly replying to texts on his phone the whole time. That's just how he was. Nobody was important to him. Work was everything. Just as the principal was about to make a final decision, I reached into my pocket, ready to take out my recording pen. Suddenly, there was a loud knock on the door behind me. Diana stood timidly at the door. She walked in, clutching the corner of her clothes, and said in a low but firm voice, "Everything Elizabeth said is true. Ethan followed her into the equipment room. Here's the evidence." I was a bit surprised. She hadn't arranged any evidence, then she took out her phone and played a video. At the beginning, it showed me entering the equipment room alone. A few seconds later, Ethan and Olivia appeared in front of the equipment room. They whispered something, and then Olivia walked away while Ethan entered the room. I was trying to take a picture of the scenery at the time but accidentally captured what happened in front of the room, Diana explained. After the video played, Ethan's lies were exposed, and no one doubted my words anymore. Plus, the fact that Ethan and Olivia had teamed up was also revealed. Should we call the police now? I broke the silence. Our stepmom's eyes widened. You're crazy. He's already been beaten up like this by you. What else do you want? She looked at my dad for help. Can't you control your good daughter? My dad finally spoke. Well, this is our family matter. Let's handle it at home. No need to call the police. The principal visibly sighed in relief. For the school's reputation, he didn't want to make a big fuss. In the end, Ethan went home to recuperate for a month as a minor punishment. Before leaving, my dad stopped by Olivia. I'll call your mom personally and ask her how she raised you. Olivia's eyes filled with horror, and she whispered, Dad, don't call me. I don't have a daughter like you. My dad showed no mercy and then put his arm around my shoulder. I saw Olivia behind me, her eyes full of venom, almost bleeding. In the evening, there was a ding on my phone. It was a transfer from my dad, 50,000 yuan, with 3 simple words. Well done. My dad had long been fed up with Ethan. Ethan always ignored him and acted super arrogant, out of respect for our stepmom's face. My dad never criticized Ethan. My beating Ethan had effectively vented my dad's anger towards him. Even though that wasn't my intention, those trying to control the situation with public opinion ended up backfiring. Ethan was a perfect example. Since the equipment room incident, Ethan's fangirls had turned against him. When Ethan recovered and returned to school, a whole different situation awaited him. The looks that used to admire him turned into contempt and scorn. His desk drawer no longer held love letters, but various abusive notes. As for Olivia, she couldn't fit into the rich girl's circle anymore. After her and Ethan's scheme was exposed, the rich girls saw through her true colors. They declared they wouldn't be friends with a liar. Now both Olivia and Ethan had ruined their reputations at school and were despised by everyone. Meanwhile, our study group of 5 focused on our own business, studying hard. Under my supervision, we maintained good routines, ate healthily, and kept exercising. Diana was puzzled. We can work hard to get into a good university later. Isn't there anything more important than studying right now? Why not use this time to do more practice questions? Are you sure that once you get into a good university, you'll enjoy life then? Will you truly love yourself because of your exam scores? Can your confidence only be built on your grades? Do you dare to stand in front of those rich second-generation kids and loudly declare you're better than them? They lowered their heads. Of course, I don't deny the importance of studying. But to study better, we need a healthy body and continuous energy. Everyone is equal. Even if we're poor, we still have the right to shine. We also have the right to pursue beauty, health, and wonderful things. Good grades are included too. Deeply cultivating ourselves is the best way to break out of our circles. This cultivation isn't just about studying, but also includes health, wisdom, mentality, and more. They seemed to get it a bit, but still looked confused. Those stars were shining in their eyes. I knew my words had stirred something in their hearts. A few months later, the physical changes in the 5-member group were obvious. The once oily faces had become rosy, acne-prone skin had cleared up, and they even had slim waists. Their improved fitness and energy greatly boosted their study efficiency. Their grades didn't drop, but actually got better. During breaks, the rich girls had to apply thick layers of powder to barely cover their large pores. Even with blush on, it was hard to hide their sallow complexions from excessive dieting. When they noticed our changes, there was uncontrollable envy in their eyes. The previous contempt from a superior position started to crack. Finally, one of them couldn't help but ask, "How do you take care of yourselves? How did your skin get so good?" Diana replied with a smile. Actually, it was Elizabeth who taught us about healthy eating and self-care. She took out her phone and said, "Look, this is her short video account. There are many healthy diet combos for losing weight on it. You can learn from her videos. Give it some time, and I believe you can do it too." Elizabeth, you're the blogger I've been following. I'm your fan, so the master is right beside us. I was really blind before. I even thought you were Ethan's bootlicker. How could he be worthy of you? Those rich girls who used to bully me now gathered around my desk, surrounding me like stars around the moon. Outside the circle, Olivia stood there with a livid face. What's there to be proud of? You're just a lousy blogger. You may be popular at school, but you're a slave at home. What's the use of having a good appearance? She was right. My situation at home was getting tougher. Presumably, Olivia must have had a hand in this. Ethan would go crazy from time to time at home, especially when our dad wasn't around. At the dinner table, he'd deliberately knock over the dishes I cooked. Then, with red eyes, he'd order me to lick the food off the floor clean. Our stepmom just watched without saying a word. I silently got up and left. Ethan went berserk. Don't you get it? I told you to lick it clean, like a dog. Got it? No, I don't. Why don't you show me? Ethan was so angry, his eyes bleeding. He was about to rush at me with his fists raised. I grabbed a mop and pressed it against his chest, then pointed to the upper right corner of the ceiling. There's a surveillance camera at home. If you hit me, I've got video evidence and will hand it to the police. Do you want to get arrested for intentional injury? Ethan stopped, the veins in his neck bulging. Our stepmom quickly pulled Ethan away. A wise man doesn't fight when the odds are against him. Son, don't stoop to her level. She clearly saw the situation. Since the school incident, my dad had been quite critical of our stepmom and Ethan. Not long after, there were loud noises from Ethan's room. Half an hour later, the stepmom came out with red eyes. Ethan was irritable, short-tempered, and emotionally unstable. He looked at me with intense hatred, but couldn't do anything to me. All he could do was smash things. When my dad came home and saw the mess on the floor, he sighed deeply and advised the stepmom to take Ethan to see a psychologist. The stepmom was in a dilemma. On one hand, she had to keep apologizing to my dad, and on the other, she had to persuade her dear son. After a few days, her eye sockets were sunken, her face haggard, and taking care of Ethan's emotions made her extremely anxious. Even when my dad came home at night, she didn't pay much attention to him. Why doesn't Dad want to come home anymore? He hasn't come back in half a month. Finally, the stepmom broke down. She was filled with grievances and stopped my dad, who had finally returned home. Do you have someone else outside? What nonsense are you talking about? My dad rubbed his temples. You've been coming home less and less often. Do you know how hard it is for me to be home alone? I'm taking care of Ethan, and I'm really on the verge of a breakdown. It's all because of your daughter that he's become like this. My dad was impatient. Your son is sick on his own. It has nothing to do with anyone. Moreover, when he caused trouble before, I was the one who suppressed it and didn't let Elizabeth pursue the matter. The stepmom was so emotional she couldn't listen. She cried and roared. It's all your fault. Your daughter is a troublemaker. She's made my son like this, and yet you're still defending her. Do you really not care about our relationship as husband and wife at all? At this moment, the stepmom was no different from my biological mom. She was complaining like a bitter woman and had long lost the elegance of a noble lady. My dad got up, grabbed his suit, and was about to leave. You can't go. You want to leave me again and go looking for other women outside. Didn't you say you only loved me before? How can you go back on your word? I think you've gone crazy. Just when they were at a standstill, Ethan burst in without saying a word. He rushed up and punched my dad in the face. You broke up my family. You married my mom and still wanted to have an affair. You deserve to die. Ethan's hatred for my dad finally exploded. The stepmom hurriedly hugged the furious Ethan and then turned around, tears in her eyes, pleading with my dad. Ethan is sick and not in his right mind. Please don't take it to heart. My dad wiped the blood from his mouth and couldn't take it anymore. You two, pack your bags and leave tomorrow. The stepmom's eyes glazed over, and she slumped to the ground. Watching my dad leave home, tears streamed from her eyes. Ethan was still shouting angrily, Fine, we're leaving. Who's afraid of whom? Do you think we care about living here? The stepmom was crying sadly in her room. I knocked on the door and without waiting for a reply, walked in. The stepmom was shocked. What are you doing here? I smiled and said, I know you and my dad have feelings for each other and don't really want to get divorced, but things have gotten to this point and it's hard to turn back. If you still want to live with my dad, you've got to give up some things. What things? My dad cares about his reputation. After what Ethan did to him, there's no place for him in this family anymore. The stepmom fell silent. These days, she had been getting colder towards Ethan. Sooner or later, she'd have to choose. Now, I was just making it clear in advance. As expected, the next morning, Ethan was sent to the airport by the driver. Our stepmom had obviously dressed up. She wore bright red lipstick and looked much better. She went to the kitchen to cook, which was unheard of. When my dad came back, she went up to him, took off his suit jacket for him, and helped him change into slippers. Last night, I thought about it a lot. Ethan was really out of line. His behavior was already affecting our normal life. So, I contacted his biological dad abroad and told him about Ethan's condition. He agreed to let Ethan go abroad for more authoritative psychological treatment. It's good for both of us and for Ethan, the stepmom explained gently, and my dad started to relent. Last night, I also did something wrong. I said some things that were too harsh. My dad picked up a piece of food with his chopsticks, brought it to his mouth, then put it down, looking preoccupied. I didn't come home these past few nights because the company had some issues. A large batch of goods was unsellable, and the capital was tight. The senior management has been having daily meetings to find a way to sell the goods and clear the inventory. It's like when you're sleepy, someone offers you a pillow, or... My dad was in the health product business. With the rise of short video live streaming, the traditional sales model lost its edge. Dad, I can help you sell the goods. I guarantee I can clear the inventory within a week. I met my dad's astonished gaze. I have only one requirement. I want 20% of the sales amount or... You've got quite a big mouth. Do you think this is just playing house and you can boast about it? Anyway, you won't lose anything. Why not let me try? My dad, grasping at straws with no hope, said, "Let me give it a shot." I had over 1 million followers. My daily short videos were about sharing healthy meal combinations. Just a few days after posting some videos about health products, countless fans asked how to buy them. I started a live stream. While sharing health concepts, I timely added the products to the shopping cart. Within a week, the sales had already surpassed my dad's company's half-year sales. Not only were all the goods cleared, but there was even a situation where demand exceeded supply. In the evening, my dad was beaming with joy. I really didn't expect our long-standing problem to be solved so easily by you. If the products couldn't be sold, I'd be facing bankruptcy. The stepmom and my dad both raised their glasses to me. Yeah, Elizabeth is a hero of our family. She turned the company's losses into profits effortlessly. My dad put down his wine glass with a smile in his eyes. We can't let Elizabeth quit cooking anymore. It'd be a waste of her talent. He looked at the stepmom and continued, I'm not used to the dishes you cook either. Hire a nanny ASAP. The stepmom replied with a smile, I've already contacted one, don't worry, but I love cooking in the kitchen. Besides, I can't stop updating my short videos, and I don't like sharing the kitchen with others. I directly stated my request. Dad, I need to go back to school to fill out the college application form tomorrow. Can you come with me? My dad patted my head affectionately. Sure, of course I can. Your aunt will come with us too to show our support. You know, during the 3 years of high school, my dad never attended a single parent-teacher meeting. But now, he was willing to set aside his work for me. In the adult world, talking about feelings is useless, while talking about interests is way more effective. In the past life, Olivia only complained to our dad and tried to play the victim in front of the stepmom, trying to get sympathy with her victim status, but it only made them dislike her more. Now, he was willing to set aside his work for me. Sure enough, in the adult world, talking about feelings is useless, while talking about interests is more effective. When I held my transcript with a score of 710 points at the bottom, both my dad and the stepmom widened their eyes in disbelief. My dad had never paid attention to my grades before. He thought I was just loafing around at school like Ethan. Our ancestors must have accumulated good deeds. There's finally a talented person in the Smith family. On the way back, the stepmom enthusiastically took my arm, and my dad held my hand. Olivia, hiding in the shade of the trees, happened to see our harmonious family scene. She looked at me with intense jealousy and anger in her eyes. My dad kept his promise and transferred the sales commission to me, nearly 1 million yuan. While I was in college, I founded my own health management company. Diana got into the food science and technology major at a nearby university. I recruited her into the company to handle research and development of healthy snacks, while I managed external business. The connections I made during high school helped our company earn its first profits. Those rich girls knew we had a company and rushed to become our first clients. Through continuous introductions, I frequently attended various dinner parties and networked with the rich kids. In just 1 year, I was thriving in the upper-class circle, and our client base grew exponentially. Once when visiting a client, I ran into Olivia working at a roadside beverage store. Olivia did poorly in the college entrance exams. In the past life, she didn't study hard, And in this life, she was even more reckless, barely getting into an ordinary junior college. The elite high school had drained our mom's savings. When Olivia went to college, our mom couldn't afford the tuition fees and needed to take medicine all year for her psychological issues. The financial situation was really tough. With no other choice, the delicate young lady who'd never done manual work started working. By then, I had already achieved career success. I drove a sports car, wore a designer suit, and stood in front of Olivia looking glamorous. I didn't have time to chat about the old days. The time I had scheduled with the client was coming up. Unexpectedly, she grabbed me, looking pitiful. Sis, are you leaving without even saying hello? Do I disgust you that much? Now that you've achieved success, do you look down on your own sister? Mom is sick and needs money for treatment at home, but you don't care at all. Are you really so heartless? You excluded me in high school. I glanced at my watch. I didn't want to waste any time on her. I quickly shook off her hand and walked away. I didn't notice her mouth corners turning up gradually. Also, the phone she hid in her coat pocket. When I heard our mom was sick, I went to visit her. What are you doing here? Her voice was full of suspicion. I got straight to the point. I heard you're sick and Olivia has problems paying for her tuition. I took out a bank card, but as soon as I finished speaking, a slap hit me right in the face. What are you? You're a snob. Now you even come here to humiliate me? I heard from Olivia that you're doing well, but so what? You're nothing in my eyes. Besides relying on your dad, what real skills do you have? Unlike our Olivia, who's self-reliant, you're not even worth a strand of her hair. Take your stinking money and get out of here. The door slammed shut. She didn't even want it. I've already fulfilled my duty as a child. A few days later, a video went viral online. It showed that day when Olivia grabbed me to complain, and I coldly pushed her hand away. After editing, Olivia appeared even more vulnerable, while I was portrayed as extremely cold-blooded. Two sisters born of the same mom, one became a rising business star and joined the upper class, while the other was still an ordinary student struggling to pay for college. This stark contrast, combined with Olivia's victim claims, grabbed a lot of attention online. Just when the hot search topic, elder sister squeezing the younger sister's living resources, topped the list, Olivia started a live stream that night. She was still in her beverage store uniform, with her black hair loose and her eyes slightly red, looking so pitiful that people couldn't help but feel sorry for her. I started this live stream because I saw all the negative comments online about my sister. Actually, she's not a bad person, she's just a bit cold. I hope you won't attack her anymore, as it negatively impacts her company. The things in high school are already in the past. We were young then. It wasn't on purpose that my sister led others to isolate and exclude me. It was because I was too weak mentally to handle the blows. So not only did I fall behind in my studies, but I also had psychological problems. I'm currently taking medicine for treatment. I just hope my sister can find time to come home and visit our mom, who has been longing for her. Mom has already fallen ill from excessive longing, but my sister is too busy and has never come back even once. I became an unforgivable sinner while she was an innocent victim. Netizens were misled, and the comments flooding the live stream were all scolding me. Born of the same mom, how could she treat her own sister like this? She's inhumane. She's so arrogant now that she has money. She even wants to break away from our mom and sister. It's really something you don't see every day. I hope her company goes bankrupt soon. I started this live stream because I saw that all the comments online were unfavorable towards my sister. Actually, my sister isn't a bad person. She's just a bit cold. I hope you won't attack her anymore, as it will negatively impact her company. Then she began to speak with a sobbing tone. The things in high school are already in the past. We were young at that time. It wasn't on purpose that my sister led others to isolate and exclude me. It was because I was too weak in my psychological endurance that I couldn't bear the blow. So not only did I fall behind in my studies, but I also had psychological problems. Currently, I'm actively taking medicine for treatment. I just hope that my sister can find time to go home and visit our mother, who has been longing for her. Mom has already fallen ill because of excessive longing, but my sister is too busy and has never come back even once. I became an unforgivable sinner while she was an innocent victim. The netizens were misled, and the comments flooding the live stream were all scolding me. Born of the same mom, how could she treat her own sister like this? She's simply inhumane. She's so arrogant that she looks down on others now that she has money. She even wants to break away from our mom and sister. It's really something you don't see every day. I hope her company goes bankrupt soon. Just as I was reading these nasty comments, Diana rushed into my office urgently. She gasped, "Is your sister crazy? She's trying to bring our company down? In the past few days, several clients have proposed to cancel their cooperation with us." "Then just let them cancel," I said casually. Diana raised her eyebrows. "Aren't you worried at all? Can false accusations really become the truth?" Soon as the company's business was plummeting rapidly, more clients wanted out. Diana was freaking out like an ant on a hot pan. However, I was sitting calmly in the office, sipping tea. She scolded me, "It's really like the emperor isn't in a hurry while the eunuch is. This is free advertising for me? With such massive traffic, how much money would I have to spend if I hired people to promote it myself?" Amelia did a live stream every night repeating the same old story over and over again. Throughout the entire live stream, her words were gentle but full of accusations against me. She looked so pitiful, and every night people sent her gifts and tips. Her live stream income was almost more than her part-time job. Within a month, she gave up her part-time job and focused on live streaming. She didn't have any special talents. Since she could make money just by pretending to be pitiful, of course she didn't want to work hard. However, she wanted to drive my company into a dead end and force me into a desperate situation. Whether in the past life or this life, she saw me as her imaginary rival and tried every means to destroy me. Well, then I didn't need to be soft-hearted either. I analyzed Olivia's accusations in the live stream. First, in high school, I isolated and excluded her, leading to her neglecting her studies and being psychologically traumatized. Second, after our parents divorced, our mom missed me so much, but I had never visited her. After achieving success in my career, I became even meaner. What a fool! How much evidence do I have? Could she really turn black into white just with her words? Since she's trying to finish me off completely, then don't blame me for being ruthless. I looked at the evidence in my hand and the proof that Olivia was a mistress and posted them all online. While Olivia was happily live streaming, the number of viewers suddenly skyrocketed. She thought she was becoming popular again. However, she didn't expect to be completely discredited because the people in the live stream weren't her fans anymore, but haters flooding in with dirty water. These people saw through her true colors, and the barrage was full of attacks. "Green tea liar, get out of the live stream. She just wants to make money. I can't believe I trusted her so much before. Her mom doesn't seem sick at all. She's so fierce and cruel to her own sister. Her sister is really pitiful." Olivia was stunned. Facing the overwhelming abuse, she quickly closed the live stream. She only learned the whole story afterward, but it was too late. She was not only cyberbullied, but also saw her live streaming dreams shattered. Thanks to Olivia's publicity, my company became a hot topic online again. More people admired us, and our client base grew daily. Soon, our company became an industry leader. Just when Diana and I were planning to attend a summit, Olivia, with a swollen and red face, rushed towards me with a knife in her hand. Instantly, I held my bag in front of me. The security guards were the first to react and quickly subdued Olivia. Everyone else let out various exclamations. Olivia struggled violently and shouted, "Elizabeth, I'll kill you! It's all because of you that Mom and Dad don't want me anymore. It's all because of you that I look so bad." Although my parents divorced amicably, since our dad remarried soon after, our mom had always been brooding over it and stubbornly believed that our dad and stepmom were secretly hooking up. She hated mistresses and couldn't accept that her own daughter had become one. A wealthy businessman kept sending gifts during Olivia's live stream and became her top tipper. Unable to resist his charm, Olivia didn't refuse when he invited her out. Later, even though she knew he had a wife and kids, Olivia still agreed to be his mistress. I posted the evidence online, and of course, our mom saw it, so she didn't want Olivia anymore either. While I was standing under the spotlight sharing our company's philosophy, Olivia had already been taken away by the police. A month later, I visited Olivia in prison. She had lost weight with sunken cheeks and a pale look. Through the glass, she slowly said, "I've lost again in this life. I've lost both Mom and Dad and myself, but I don't understand. Why do you always have to be better than me? Why do you always win? Is it really because I'm not good enough?" Her eyes immediately dimmed. I shook my head and said, "You're good. But you don't believe it enough. You always need to compare yourself with me and rely on others' love to confirm your own goodness. Whether in the past life or this life, you've always seen me as your imaginary enemy and chased after me. But you haven't lived your own life. It seems that as long as you surpass me, everything will be okay. Is that really the case? Without me, would mom and dad love you? Without me, could you get into a good university and achieve success in your career? The biggest difference between you and me is that I'm always focused on developing myself instead of constantly paying attention to others. Tears welled up in Olivia's eyes, and she murmured, "It's too late for everything." I walked out. Olivia's wailing followed me, but I didn't look back. 1 year later, our company launched the Love Yourself Female Public Welfare Program. We set up free psychological lectures and promoted knowledge about healthy diets. We also recruited volunteers offline and established running mutual assistance groups to help women without financial resources find a way to make positive changes.